Well, the Candyman came in from Babbitt's Online and got my parts for the Scoot between the time I thought about what I was going to get and by the time what I ordered. I pared it down because this thing is so old. I don't want to get too involved in it and too much money into it until I know what is the engine going to last? What else is going to die on me? The alternator go out, the water pump, it's like, I want to limit myself to how much money I've got into it, but I did get a new belt, and it's it's a Honda Bando, so it's original equipment, and I was comparing the sizes of them, and there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the new one and the old one, maybe a 1 millimeter, but this old one is 30-some years old, so it's time to change that out. I got some new clutch pads, and the old ones I thought were wearing down, but the new ones don't look like they're that much thicker. Let me get, than the old ones. I did take, just for the hell of it, I took a file I had, or it's a wood file, but it's basically a little carborundum dust that's been embedded into a steel handle, and so I used the soft one, or the fine side, and kind of like got rid of the glaze on the pads here. These are the brown pads and these are the green ones, and I was surprised that the new ones came in so much. Let's get these things lined up here, apples to apples. You can see the difference in the green ones are much shorter by about, I don't know, ½ an inch. So it'll be interesting, and it seemed like a narrower face too, a wear face. So we'll see what happens on that. And then I got a new spring in, but measuring, I mean, I took it the same height, so this old one I measured and I said that it was, within spec, and I was thinking when I got the new one in, it's like, it seems like the old one has more resistance to it than the new one does. Maybe it's just my brain, so I don't know. Maybe I could have gotten away with the old spring, but I've got one. I can either sell later or use all these parts. I can use these old ones. I can use in another Scoot if I want to. And then on the clutch bell itself, there's a lot of difference between the old one here with a lot of glazing, shape, and then this one is pretty pristine surface. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So let me go ahead, and I also made a tool. Now some steel I had and some grade 8 1/4-inch bolts. So I'll go ahead and set the reset up here with the clutch. I'll go ahead and put the clutch shoes on the housing and then get them ready to put inside the compressor to get the nut back on and torque it down again. So let me go ahead and set up. I was going to get some new Baby Bubby bumpers here for the inside their clutch stops, but they seemed in pretty good shape, and yesterday I took some WD-40 and kind of sprayed on them and then moved it around, and the rubber is a lot more pliable now than what it had been. So let me go ahead and set those guys in place on the ring here, and let me stop for a minute. I want to get my grease out and grease up these pins just slightly for the brake shoes to go, or the clutch shoes to go on. Now I got my Yamaha race grease here. It's a red lithium based grease. It's kind of sticky and tacky. I was using this inside the variator for the rollers on these, I guess on these old CN 250 engines, the newer ones don't have the backing plate on the behind the rollers. and they don't use grease, where you've got an O-ring and that plate on the back that holds the grease in place. But that was after I'd repacked everything. So, okay. Let's see, this is the way, yep. And that bumper goes down in here. I don't know if you can see it down there. It goes into this little divot right in there. But let me get ahead of myself. What they say is to put the springs on first, probably in this side, and then put it into the other side. Okay. Got it all there, and it will go in like that. Getting these guys tilted over where they line up, I found if I took my pliers and gripped, ahead of where the pads are, and on the pin here, I could twist this one enough to where I could tap them down again. So let me get my dead blow and we'll put them on all the way. Now I got them down pretty close, and then I'll take a socket here. Get down there. What is the holdup? The rubber baby buggy bumpers. Yeah, I got to open up a little bit more. They're setting down here on the buggy bumpers, and so I'm going to have to get some shims in there in order to get them to clear this lip. There we go. This lip right here on the buggy bumper. I'm finding that I got these hunks of wood here that are wide enough, but I needed to clamp this thing down to the bench in order to get these things around here. Get myself clearance. And they're probably 3/8, maybe, if you had some doweling or something like that would get it to where it would clear. I need to actually go a little wider than that to clear those little guys. I had to change out my little sticks for some 1/2 inch doweling. So now they'll go down. And they're clear of the little rubber guys. Okay, they're on. That'll be the problem, is getting down. Let me zoom in and show you. Is getting this clutch part here out far enough so that you can see the little rubber thing in there. It's got to clear this notch that's, where's the pointer at? Well, right in here. That notch on that shoe has got to clear that. And if you don't put those shims in to pull the shoes out, then you'll just be beating on it all day in order to get it. It'll just be crushing your little rubber bumper there. Now that we got these beat down, we'll go ahead and put the C-clips back on. And to the astute observer out there, you'll say, Warren, you messed up. I forgot to put this on. One thing I did before I took it apart, I took a center punch and double punched this and double punched around here, so I know that it came off that way. Now I can put the C-clips back on. One of the things I did was you pull this sleeve off here, which can be a little pain in the ass. You got to get underneath with some old screwdrivers and use them as pry bars to get them up, because there's an O-ring on the very bottom and an O-ring right up here to hold the grease. There's a hole inside here that the grease that you pack inside, I think there's like, what, 30 to 35 grams of grease you pack inside here that then comes out. I did put a little, I think it was like 4 or 5 grams of grease around the outside in the pinholes. I didn't show that do that on camera, but yeah, I filled it all up with grease and then put this back down, because this is where the this cup is where the spring goes on. And also, for those that don't want to do it, I got to looking at, you can get this whole back assembly here with the bearings, the seals, and everything already in a little package of grease for like about $73. So it actually, if you had a problem with the bearings in here, it would probably be easier and cheaper, a lot easier, just to buy the $73 backing part and then save the moving plate on the front from your scoot, as opposed to having to go in there and pound out those bearings. So now here are the two strings. This is the new one, this is the old one, and they're really same old same. In fact, if I had to say anything, or if I'd use a flatter surface, this old one might have a greater height to it. But I've got that, and it's hard to say. You know, they may have made better steel back in those days. I don't know. You know, I guess. Well, it says made in Japan, so I guess I got good steel. So I can save that for later or for another scoop. Fix this on here. Okay, which way? Isn't that right? Yeah. And you gotta kind of pre-align it so that it goes on. And get my nut on place. The compression part, and this is basically just a, what the hell is this? Schedule 40 2.5 inch by 1.5 inch plug that I cut out some openings so you can get your fingers in there to tighten the nut up. And then there's a large, the wood part goes down. And then you got this large washer, and then there's a nylon washer, 3/8, and then another one to act as a bearing. And then I got my tool here, or a nut. I was having problems seeing where everything was lined up in there, so I took it off and cut it back. Didn't need to do that, because I was able to get the nut on here and compress it and with my hands, and get the nut on and get a couple threads going there with my thumbs, and so it's on. So now I'm going to use my new tool and, and get that on there. Well, I don't need it on the machine anymore. Let me take it off because it's going to be in the way of that. I think I can compress it down a little bit with my big pliers here, just to get a couple more threads on there without bunging up the nut. One of the things I did on the T-Max when I was compressing this driven pulley on it was I was over compressing this part, and you didn't need to. It's got a seat that you just compress down to, and then that's it. So, and I forgot to put on, normally I forgot. I was going to put on some polyurea grease, which is a high pressure, high temperature grease, to keep from galling these threads up, but it seemed to have gone on smoothly, so I'm not going to worry about it. So let me get this off here and set up for the torquing. Well, it says 50 to 60 Newton meters and 43 or 36 to 43 foot pounds, so I got it set for foot pounds here. Let's see how this new tool works. Well, once I figured out how to hold this thing, okay, that's done. I was holding it, trying to pull it this way, but you need to crinch it this way to where you're pushing this on this one and pulling that guy to where you're pushing together. Okay, so much for that. Let me go ahead and clean some stuff up here.